You're listening to 99.3 FM, presented by St. Barnabas, in addition to 1230 WBVP Beaver Falls.
As far back as I could remember, I always knew everyone in our government was a gangster.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Thinking Logically. It's your handsome host, Joseph Anthony Corsai. With us in studio is our amazing producer, Ryan. Ryan, how are things?
Hey, how you doing today, my man? I'm doing good.
Good. And as always, holding down Allegheny County is our co-host, Mr. Gordy. Mark, how's it going?
I am doing so well, Joe. Thanks for the introduction there. Did you watch the Tom Brady roast, Ryan? Did you watch the Tom Brady roast last night on Netflix? It was unbelievable.
You know what? I didn't, but I will. I'm going to go back and watch it. I will not miss this for the world.
Very good. I didn't watch the whole thing. I watched it. There's a 2-minute highlight tape of one guy. We can't even say half the stuff on radio, but it's worth it.
I already took it pretty hard, though.
Yes.
Nice.
It was honestly one of the best things I've watched in a very long time.
All right. Now I can't wait. I was already planning on watching it whenever I got home, but now I'm really chomping at the bit, guys.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, something even more laughable, the state of our country. But before we get started, I have to ask, this trial, what is the crime in this trial currently happening in New York City? Is it election interference from 2016? Is that the final answer here? Donald Trump influenced the 2016 election by paying off a porn star. Really? This is it. This is what it's about. This trial is the real election interference. They already have him stuck in a courtroom, unable to campaign except on Wednesdays. Why? It's because, number one, COVID is over. They can't have you see Biden pool less than 100 people in a major city while Trump pulls over 10,000 at an impromptu Wisconsin rally. But why isn't Donald Trump permitted to point out certain conflicts of interest that the judge and his daughter have? Why can't Donald Trump cite letters that are supposedly written by Stormy Daniels and her lawyer saying there was, quote, no romantic affair? Why can't he? He's already been fined for these things, and now we find out today that he could go to jail. And make no mistake about it, that was probably always the goal. But Monday morning kicked off with Judge Merchan threatening to incarcerate the former president. This is from Alex on X, and it's a copy of the judge's letter. It says, therefore, the defendant is hereby put on notice that if appropriate and warranted, future violations of its lawful orders will be punishable by incarceration, and it is hereby ordered that the defendant pay another $1,000 fine for his violation of that court's lawful order by the close of business on Friday, May 10th, 2024. And it is further ordered that if the offending statement has been posted to the defendant's Truth Social account or his official campaign website, it has to be removed by 2:15 Monday, May 6th, 2024. Absolutely amazing. Another thing I want to remind our audience, who's trying this case? The answer, it's Joe Biden and the Department of Justice's former number 3. He resigned, Colangelo. What's his first name, Mark?
Matthew Colangelo.
Matthew Colangelo. He resigned to as the former number 3 of the DOJ to work a lesser position and wound up on this case. Colangelo is, which Mark, you'll get into later, been a paid consultant for the DNC, we found out today, since 2018. He's been on the payroll since then. But it got better in court today. How could it possibly get any better? Well, on the stand, the prosecution, according to Travis Media Group on X, the prosecution just destroyed their entire case in the Trump hush money trial. Trump controller Jeff McConney just testified that he is the one who instructed the accounting department to classify the payments as, quote, legal expenses. He said he did not. He said he did that because of how Cohen, that's Michael Cohen, worded the invoices. This entire case is based on the premise that Donald Trump had the payments classified as legal expenses to hide hush money payments. The judge should immediately throw this case out after the testimony. Okay, and Mark, before I hand it off to you, the payments came from personal accounts, personal checking, trust, whatever. And also, Trump, he didn't sign the checks or the ledgers. McConney's testifying to that. But the media is spinning it another way. And look at this idiot. What's his name? Tristan Snell, this paid shill that wants to hide the important fact that it was Connally that classified them as a reimbursement. Breaking. Trump money man Jeff McConney admits that the payment to Michael Cohen was a reimbursement. Trump's position had been that Cohen was paid for legal fees. McConney made this statement under questioning from Trump's lawyer, making it even more credible to the jury. Well, again, that makes no sense because you're ignoring the fact that what McConney said before that. Mark, this whole case is getting a little bit confusing, and it seems like every day is a win for the Trump team, and the media is trying to spin it as a loss. What's going on here?
I kind of hope that Trump violates the gag order one more time and forces Judge Merchan to send him to jail. I think that would be great optics for the Trump campaign, believe it or not. That's a hot take, but hey, if you're going to go down as a martyr, go down as a martyr. I mean, why not? So Merchan says, this is from Benny Johnson on X, it's clear the $1,000 fine is not working. Going forward, this court will have to consider a jail sentence. The last thing I want to consider is jail. You are a former president and possibly the next president. First of all, this guy should have been recused from the very beginning, given the fact that he was a former donor to, I think, ACTBLU, the DNC and Biden campaign, and his daughter works for a major Democratic fundraising firm. I don't know how ethically that's even allowed in the state of New York, but we have not been hearing anything since this trial started that looks like Trump might be in serious jeopardy whatsoever. The only way that this might be close is because of the jury pool was probably, 87%, they said Democrat, or registered Democrats, I should say. So I don't even know what we're even doing here. What's the crime? So I'm sure that hopefully this wraps up soon because we're just this is just election interference at this point.
But it's not going to wrap up soon. They're never going to let this wrap up. He's off the campaign trail. That's an advantage to them. Last time it was COVID. This time it's lawfare, apparently. I can't wrap my head around it. How about what Michael Avenatti said? Was this on Friday? When is this from? Okay, this is a tweet. Again, guy's in jail. I don't know how he's on X tweeting out, but from Michael Avenatti, Keith Davidson is lying. After I confronted her with her own text messages, Daniels admitted to me in early 2019 that she and Davidson had extorted Trump in October of 2016. It was a shakedown. This was one of the many reasons I fired her as a client in February of 2019. This case is a disaster. We have a former lawyer for Stormy Daniels that's now in jail that lied. We have Michael Cohen, former lawyer for Trump, that lied and was thrown in jail for lying. I mean, how much further do they want this to go? I just don't understand. This is from Laura Loomer. Judge Merchan just threatened to jail President Trump upon Trump's arrival to the courthouse for another week of court in D.C. Like I said, they should just jail Trump instead of threatening to do it. Lock him up, and he will raise $100 million overnight. Mark, that piggybacks off your point. If they do jail him, why are they trying to do? No matter what they do, it turns out the opposite. Why don't they just let this go? Why can't they just let this go?
Yeah. Well, with your point about McConney testifying, the former Trump organization's controller, this was just breaking, as of the last half hour, I believe.
2 hours ago, yeah, not even.
So that he was not personally directed by the former president to make those payments. So, I mean, yeah, you're like you said, how much longer do they want to drag this out?
I don't know, but every day a new Stormy Daniels letter comes out that says she didn't have an affair with Trump. This is from Bo London on X. A second Stormy Daniels letter denying her affair has been found. Judge Merchan forced rightful President Trump to delete the first letter and fine him $9,000. And I guess Trump posted another one. Maybe, I don't know if he posted or not. And it's from January 10th of 2018. To whom it may concern, I recently became aware that certain news outlets along are alleging that I had a sexual and or romantic affair with Donald Trump many, 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 many years ago. I am stating with complete clarity that this is absolutely false. My involvement with Donald Trump was limited to a few public appearances and nothing more. When I met Donald, he was gracious, professional, and a complete gentleman to me and everyone in the presence. Rumors that I have received hush money from Donald Trump are completely false. If indeed I did have a relationship with Donald Trump, trust me, you wouldn't be reading about it in the news. You'll be reading about it in my book. But the fact of the matter is, these stories are not true. Signed, Stormy Daniels. I will say, the fact that she signs it Stormy Daniels and not whatever her real name is makes me think that maybe it's not a real letter. But regardless, can we find out if it was a second letter, Mark? A second Stormy Daniels letter denying it? This is equivalent to the second plane hitting the World Trade Center. This should end the case. It may even affect the integrity of other cases and cause those to crumble, like Building 7. Another letter, Mark? Another letter from Stormy? Do you have anything you want to say about the other letter?
No, I mean, speaking of crumbling, I mean, the prosecution's case here is crumbling, like you said, like Building Number 7 at the World Trade Center. Let's talk about Jack Smith, Joe. Speaking of crumbling, I mean, this is an absolute disaster for Jack Smith. Donald Trump actually called for him to be arrested over the weekend. Joe,
bombshell testimony.
what is going on with this Jack Smith case? Why doesn't Judge Eileen Cannon bring the hammer down on Jack Smith for what transpired over the weekend?
Bombshell reporting by John Sullivan. Remember the mainstream media, the left used to say, bombshell report, Trump going to jail, bombshell report in the Russia collusion case with Donald Trump. Well, this is a bombshell. In a stunning admission, special counsel Jack Smith's team is admitting that the key evidence in former President Trump's classified documents criminal case was altered or manipulated in the time since it was seized by the FBI, and that prosecutors after this misled the court about it for a period of time. Mark, this is a big issue. Everyone knows on planet Earth you can't change the sequence of how you gather evidence. According to John Solomon, Trump can now argue the boxes were in chronological order, meaning after he left the Oval Office, the documents given to him were kept in a box and he never looked at them again. So how could he know that they were classified documents? For those that really pay attention, that's the same excuse Mike Pence and Joe Biden used, and they were found not guilty. But let's not forget the fact that for some reason, according to Julie Kelly, a pallet of these boxes was sent to Mar-a-Lago after Trump left office. Were these also tampered with? Were they? If so, by who? The FBI? The Department of Justice? It shouldn't surprise anyone if it winds up being the case that it was the FBI or Department of Justice. Remember when disgraced FBI agent Kevin Kleinsmith illegally altered documents to get Trump? Yeah, nothing's changed with the FBI since then. Here's what we know. They planted pallets of documents and sent them to Mar-a-Lago to entrap Trump. When they seized the documents, they altered them. So is it a crime to go after a political opponent? And when you're doing so, hide or alter evidence from the judge. Mark, is Jack Smith going to try to cover up these crimes? Is the cover up the crime that's going to get them? What is this?
I'm glad you brought up the what we know part, because I was going to ask you that. So we're talking about they literally tried to entrap Trump by sending him pallets of documents, and then they went and then seized those documents, which we think there is some connection here to Crossfire Hurricane, which you're going to get to, I know. How is Jack Smith going to cover these up? Luckily, we have a judge who seems like she is willing to uphold the rule of law, and she's basically trying to, I feel like reading some of the questioning going on in the courtroom, trying to expose what he's doing, because she's asking questions, I think, which she already knows the answer to. But this is like unprecedented. I mean, you talk about looking at the photo of the classified documents. Remember that Julie Kelly? She's been killing it on X and some of her reporting. That was completely staged, right? So we have this whole case that whatever case they did have, the prosecution did have, Jack Smith and the special prosecutor, he may have undone himself by tampering with the evidence, we'll call it. Joe, what does this have to do with Crossfire Hurricane?
So if you remember, when we first started this episode, or this back when it was a podcast in, 2022, This was maybe a week after Trump got raided, or maybe a few days after. A summary of our theory going back to 2 years ago almost. The FBI and the Obama-Biden administration, because they're one and the same, were after the Crossfire Hurricane binder documents, whatever you want to call them, that implicates them in a coup against Trump in 2016, 2017. And this stuff is supposedly declassified anyway. But remember, Joe Biden had the idea to use the Logan Act to go after Michael Flynn. And there's a New York Post article even about it. We're going to have to take a break. But when we do return, Donald Trump shocks the world and becomes a member of the Uniparty? Really? Why in the world would he get the back of a Dem congressman who is now facing multiple indictments? You'll have to wait until we return to Thinking Logically on 99.3 WBVP to find out. Stay tuned. You know, when Joe Biden shuffles in front of the cameras to answer scripted questions during the day, he lies like Don King. But what you don't know is, when he goes to sleep at night, he lies like an Egyptian king because he uses MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets. Grown only in a region between the Sahara Desert, the Mediterranean Sea, and the Nile River, its long staple cotton makes it ultra soft and breathable. Use the promo code LOGIC to maximize your savings on this amazing product. Cash for your house. PGHbuyers.com. If you have an unwanted house but don't want the hassle of selling, visit PGHbuyers.com to see if PGHbuyers.com can help. No inspections and a fair cash offer. Visit PGHbuyers.com to sell that unwanted property for a fair price today. It's Joe Corsi here from Thinking Logically to tell you about Beaver County's #1 realtor, Mark Galla with RE/MAX Select Realty. With over 10 years experience, Mark knows all the ins and outs of the real estate business, so whether you're looking to rent, buy, sell, or swap your house, you can rely on Mark to take the hassle out. Mark Galla of RE/MAX Select Realty, going above and beyond. It's Joe again from Thinking Logically, here to tell you about one of my favorite clothing items, the MyPillow hoodie. Two things I love the most about this hoodie are how it fits and how it feels. This hoodie is extremely roomy, and its terry cloth material makes it lighter than any other hoodie I own. Use promo code LOGIC to maximize your savings. The MyPillow hoodie. Get yours today.
The views and opinions expressed on WBVP and WMBA are those of the participants and host. They are not necessarily the viewpoint of WBVP and WMBA, its staff, management, and advertisers. Thank you for listening to WBVP and WMBA.
Welcome back to Thinking Logically, your hub for all views and opinions that are dangerous. Today's episode is brought to you by Grossi & Associates. Grossi & Associates, voted Best of the Valley from 2018 until 2023. Help us help them run it back another year by calling Grossi & Associates for all of your auto collision needs and more. Okay, before the break, we were talking about the unfair prosecutions of a former president. Oh, and about how three-letter agencies habitually hide, alter, or plant evidence to go after people. And that brings us to our next story, because now the FBI and the DOJ have lost, I guess, nearly all their credibility. You got to ask yourself, for every case going forward, who do you believe? And we arrive at Henry Cuellar and his wife. So, am I saying that right? Is it Cuellar, Mark?
I believe it is.
Okay. Henry Cuellar and his wife allegedly accepted $600,000 in bribes from and wait for this one, Azerbaijani government-controlled oil and gas company, and apparently also a bank headquartered in Mexico City, court documents say. In exchange, Cuellar allegedly obliged to try and shift American foreign policy in Azerbaijan's favor. He also allegedly accepted to influence U.S. executive branch officials and legislative activity to help benefit the Mexican bank. All of this comes out in the open, remind you, after, so back up here. This all comes out in the open. The FBI, the DOJ, they finally do their job. And guess who comes out defending this guy? No one else than former President Donald Trump. He puts out a true social Post. Biden just indicted Henry Cuellar because the respected Democrat congressman wouldn't play Crooked Joe's open border game. He was for border control, so they said, let's use the FBI and DOJ to take him out. This is the way they operate. They're a bunch of D.C. thugs, and at some point they will be paying a very big price for what they have done to our country. Crooked Joe Biden is a threat to democracy. I don't even know how to unpack that. He makes a good point, but Mark, what do you know about this Henry Cuellar guy?
I haven't really followed this too closely. I do know about the Azerbaijanis, though, and they aren't really good guys, we'll call them. They have a history of genocide against the Armenians that I wanted to mention. Going back to 15, they killed 1.5 million Armenian Christians. Armenia is the oldest Catholic Christian country on planet Earth. They converted to Christianity around like 309. And now they're at it again. I think they either relocated or killed 150,000 Armenians just recently. And even the Russians pulled out. A Russian peacekeeping force stationed near the Azerbaijan-Armenia border since 2020 withdrew in what was seen as a concession to Azerbaijan. So these guys aren't necessarily, I would call them good. Well, sometimes you could say neither are the United States anymore. But yeah, this is interesting. But we'll see where this goes. We'll see what kind of justice they have out for Henry Cuellar and his wife, if they're going to let them off easy or play hardball.
Friendly reminder for our folks, there is now a Democrat in the U.S. Senate, Bob Menendez, and there is now a Democrat in the House, Henry Cuellar, who have been criminally charged in federal corruption investigations for taking bribes and acting as agents of foreign nations. It was like if this was 8 years ago or 4 years ago, this would be all over the news. Now it's just like, whatever. All I'm going to say on this topic in closing is that if he was getting kickbacks from green energy instead of oil and gas, this would never have happened. He would have never been indicted for this. Our justice system is two-tiered in so many different ways. And another one of those ways is our next topic. Mark, E. Jean Carroll. Remember her? The one that supposedly was raped by Donald Trump in the back of, I don't even know what store it was. Well, one of the senators,
I believe it was.
Well, one of the New York State senators, Kevin Parker, who from Brooklyn, who supported and voted for the Adult Survivors Act, enabling E. Jean Carroll to sue Trump over accusations of assault from 30 years ago, now asserts that the law is unconstitutional because he's accused of rape under the same thing, the Adult Survivors Act. This is... I wonder if his accuser's story from 30 years ago is the exact same plot line from an old episode of Law & Order that E. Jean Carroll used. This is just hilarious. Talk about, like, rules for thee, but not for me. I don't know.
Yeah, you can't even make that up. I had no idea about that until today. But
he said it was unconstitutional.
Yeah, you can't even make it up.
Unconstitutional. Well, was it unconstitutional when you passed it to get Trump for a case of the crazy woman that thought, quote, on Anderson Cooper, I'm quoting here her, rape is sexy? I don't know.
Should he pay $88 million?
Well, I don't know, man. I don't know. We got to go easy on him. He didn't know it's unconstitutional. He's realizing that now. Hindsight is always 20/20, I guess. It's honestly, it's the hypocrisy. The hypocrisies. How many people are going to have old 30-year-old accusations come out now? You see the slippery slope? All right, let's move on to a different topic, somewhere with protests. But first, we're going to cover, Ryan, when you get a chance, we're going to cover Maxine Waters. She was on, I don't even know what show it was on, and she had a quote, a soundbite that just needs to be played and needs to be heard. Ryan, whenever you get a chance, give it to us. One 1,000. Two 1,000. God bless Ryan. He's searching for it. Okay, while we're waiting for that audio clip, we're going to dive into the protest aspect of what's been going on in the country. Oh, here it is. Go ahead, Ryan.
All right, you ready?
Yep.
This is a man who we better be careful about. And I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask the Justice Department and I'm going to ask the president to tell us what they're going to do to protect this country against violence if he loses. I want to know about all of those right-wing organizations that he's connected with who are training up in the hills somewhere and targeting, what communities they're going to attack.
Ryan, is that why you were so late on the soundbite? Were you planning up in the hills and training?
I was in the mountain. I had to get down here as fast as I could.
Which city are you going to take over if Trump loses? What city are we going to take over?
You know what? I don't know, but this is insane. this is insane.
Who is saying that? Who's training in the mountains? Is anyone training in the mountains? What are they doing in the mountains?
Wow.
Mark, what are your thoughts on training in the mountains to come down after the election?
I love me some good Maxine Waters audio, Joe. You know that she was the one that called for violence, right? In the summer of 2020 in the protests. So not surprising.
Well, yeah, she did. She called. She told people to chase these people. Whether you see them at a gas station, anywhere, you get in their faces and you yell. Look, she's a clown, is what she is. She's a clown. But the fact that actually gets airtime and people will listen to that and not like spot it for what it is scary. That's why we're here. But you mentioned the protests. Let's get to these protests. This is going to take an interesting turn here. So, at Fordham University, anti-Israel protesters shout at the New York Police Department, vandalize a city bus. Well, I guess it was a police bus, and they also shout insults at New York Police Department officers during unrest at Fordham University campus. They also splashed red paint on the police bus. Okay. You got to see these people. They absolutely amaze me. First of all, COVID is over. It's been over. But for some reason, somehow, everyone got the memo to start wearing masks again as protests break out simultaneously across the country on college campuses. Some of them went from N95s to just sleeves and scarves over their faces. Why are these people covering their faces? You don't have to be a genius to figure out it's because they don't have COVID. They definitely don't have COVID. So again, why do you cover your face? It's probably because they don't want their identity known. And naturally, the next logical question would be then, why don't they want their identity known? And I think we have an answer, because the big lie would start to completely unravel. Meet Lisa Fithian. She's 63 years old, so she's definitely not in college. It appears as if she is, in fact, a white woman and not Palestinian. So why is she there? Why is she at Columbia? Who is Lisa Fithian, a.k.a. Filthy Human? Let's take a gander here. So she protested, but somehow avoided arrest at Columbia. During the protest, she was caught on video telling students how to barricade Hamilton Hall and called two Jewish students, can't even say the word on radio. So who is she? She's a career activist that grew up in the prominent neighborhood of Hawthorne, New York. She attended a private liberal arts college and began fighting soon after. How did she manage to evade charges, and who is paying her to be a professional agitator? That's from the Travis Media Group on X. And it gets so much better. I can sit here and spout these off. Soros and other globalists have infiltrated pro-Palestinian protests. Lisa Fithian, a professional protest consultant, is instructing the mob at Columbia tonight. And that was from like a week ago. Go on and on and on. What's this next one? Daily Mail. Meet the $300 a day professional protester Lisa Fithian, slammed now by Eric Adams. Mark, you know it's bad when Eric Adams is slamming you. But who's funding these protests? Do we know? Has there any been reporting in the last couple of days or 24 hours about this?
Well, let's talk about the masks first. They interviewed one of the protesters at Columbia, I believe it was, and somebody did ask we'll call it a protester, why they're wearing masks, what the point of the masks are. And she said that the people in her group were very, I believe she used the word, COVID and pandemic conscious, something to that effect. So apparently, they're still worried about it. Wink, wink, nod, nod. But who's funding these protests? This came out from Politico, Joe. Politico, right? We're not talking about Breitbart News here. This is Politico, a left-wing news source. This is from our boy, We're Clandestine on X. Absolutely wild article from Politico this morning admitting the pro-Palestine protests are funded by deep state mega donors. Bill Gates, George Soros, the Rockefeller family, and our favorite governor, Joe, J.B. Pritzker of Illinois.
Oh, God, he's gross.
The family behind that has the billionaire family behind, I believe it's the Hyatt hotel chain. The same people behind BLM are funding these protests, as we all suspected. But why are the mainstream media admitting it, is the question here that he poses. Which is a good question, Joe. Why are the mainstream media admitting this? What is the purpose behind this? We saw from the Post-Millennial today, John Kennedy, I think the senator from Louisiana, says Biden is scared to death to alienate the Hamas wing of the Democrat Party. Continue on with these protests. There was a reporter that saw Kamala Harris today. She was getting some food and walking out on the sidewalk, and they asked her, Madam Vice President, Hamas says it accepted a ceasefire deal. Your reaction? Kamala said, shrimp and grits, if you wanted to know. Joe, back to you.
I don't even know what to make of that. To answer your question, maybe it's getting reported on because the Biden administration told them to report on this because they want to get these people out of there because it's hurting his reelection chances right now. All this bad media he's been getting 24/7. But we got to move on because we got to take a break in about a minute here. All right, let's talk about illegals in the 2024 election real quick. And this came out on, I believe, Saturday or Sunday. It's from A-Muse. It's a giant bus with a bunch of people getting off. And he says, each of these illegals receive auto parole and get social security numbers so they can work. Fun fact, with a social security number, you can register to vote without an ID. It's illegal, but there is no system in place to catch or stop them. And again, if you're watching the video, why are they all wearing masks? The cameras are rolling. Let's at least know their faces. And that's, again, there's a reason they don't want people to see their faces. And wouldn't you know it, just like last story, there is a reason they don't want us to see their faces or know their identities. This is from Kaneko the Great. A 33-year-old suspected ISIS terrorist from Uzbekistan illegally crossed the U.S. border in February of 22 and was released to by the Biden administration to live freely in Baltimore, Maryland for more than 2 years. In May 2023, Uzbekistan issued a global notice that he was wanted in his home country for alleged ISIS ties. It wasn't until March of 2024 that U.S. officials connected the dots between the global notice. ICE finally arrested him on April 17th in Baltimore. And a few things here. So many questions. Number one, Baltimore, you say? Was there a terrorist attack in Baltimore recently? No, that ship definitely just crashed on the bridge on its own. They ruled out terrorism immediately, remember. Number two, how did he get in the country exactly? Like, how did he get to Mexico to cross the border illegally into this country? Oh, and one more. Out of the 12 plus million that have come here illegally the last 4 years, how many more cases are like this? Well, I don't know. Let us taxpayers know when you find out, I guess. Thanks. Mark, we got to take a break here. But when we get back, Niger tells the Pentagon sharing is caring. Why on God's green earth will we be sharing our military base in Niger with Russian troops? Only in the Joe Biden administration could a third world African nation strong arm us into sharing a base with a country we are currently in a proxy war with. Stay tuned. You're listening to Thinking Logically on 99.3 WBVP. It's Joe again from Thinking Logically, here to tell you about one of my favorite clothing items, the MyPillow hoodie. Two things I love the most about this hoodie are how it fits and how it feels. This hoodie is extremely roomy, and its terry cloth material makes it lighter than any other hoodie I own. Use promo code LOGIC to maximize your savings. The MyPillow hoodie. Get yours today. It's Joe Corsi here from Thinking Logically to tell you about Beaver County's #1 realtor, Mark Galla with RE/MAX Select Realty. With over 10 years experience, Mark knows all the ins and outs of the real estate business, so whether you're looking to rent, buy, sell, or swap your house, you can rely on Mark to take the hassle out. Mark Galla of RE/MAX Select Realty, going above and beyond. cash for your house. PGHbuyers.com. If you have an unwanted house but don't want the hassle of selling, visit PGHbuyers.com to see if PGHbuyers.com can help. No inspections and a fair cash offer. Visit PGHbuyers.com to sell that unwanted property for a fair price today. You know, when Joe Biden shuffles in front of the cameras to answer scripted questions during the day, he lies like Don King. But what you don't know is, when he goes to sleep at night, he lies like an Egyptian king because he uses MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets. Grown only in a region between the Sahara Desert, the Mediterranean Sea, and the Nile River, its long staple cotton makes it ultra soft and breathable. Use the promo code LOGIC to maximize your savings on this amazing product.
The views and opinions expressed on WBVP and WMBA are those of the participants and host. They are not necessarily the viewpoint of WBVP and WMBA, its staff, management, and advertisers. Thank you for listening to WBVP and WMBA.
Welcome back to Thinking Logically on 99.3 WBVP, brought to you by Mitchell's Jewelers. It takes an enormous amount of pressure to make a diamond. So why should you put yourself under pressure when buying one? Don't. Go to Mitchell's Jewelers, where their choice is as clear as their diamonds. Mitchell's Jewelers, located on 2454 Mill Street in Aliquippa, PA. Okay, the number to call in, and if you want to call in, is 724-843-1888. That's 724-843 or 774-1888. Again, 724-843-1. And then, Mark, you brought up J.D. Pritzker. What he sees when he walks on the scale, 888. Okay, we started off the show talking about how former President Trump was scammed by the FBI and DOJ, or is currently being scammed. Now we're going to talk about how our current president, Joe Biden, was scammed by not a Nigerian prince, but just the regular old country of Niger, which is right above Nigeria. So, Mark, in the words of Aliquippa, I thought Niger was about to tell the U.S. to get their hat, their coat, and leave that base. But this is coming from Reuters. Reuters reports that Niger has let in around 60 Russian soldiers into the U.S. air base in Al Ghazais, built by the U.S. a few years ago for $110 million. The new military junta in the country is in the process of kicking the U.S. troops out. Hold on, let me see this next tweet from... Who's this from? Oh, yeah. So the Pentagon actually confirmed that Americans were sharing an airbase with Russian troops. Now, wait a second. Time out. The U.S. and the Russians are sharing a military base that the American taxpayers paid for? This is after we sent Ukraine $100 billion to fight them? They're right in front of us. They're right in front of us on our property, and you're letting them use the base for free? Shoot them. Shoot them right there. It'd be cheaper, right? Right? How does this make any sense? This doesn't make any sense. Doesn't this show the war in Ukraine is just a money laundering scheme? Sharing a military base that we paid for with the Russians? Imagine if that happened under Trump, Mark.
$110 million for a base, Joe, in one of the most dangerous parts of Africa. This is in, looks like, western Niger, the northern part of Nigeria, eastern part of Mali. We were talking a very, very dangerous part of the world in Africa. But, Joe, we have to be the most charitable country on planet Earth. And it's not even close. I mean, all we do is send our taxpayer dollars to these countries. 110 million here, 100 billion to Ukraine, couple million here, there, wherever. I mean, come on, what are we doing? And we're sharing it with the Russians, of all people. I thought the Russians are supposed to be our mortal enemies. And it looks like we're not going to have a presence there anymore. It looks like we're going to have to abandon this base, Joe, like we abandoned Bagram in Afghanistan, right? Is this going to be the same thing?
I hope not. I hope to God not. I mean, it would be worse because you think we at least learn something from that. I mean, a person in his first day at West Point would have known not to abandon the military air base that's on a hill to use the commercial air base or commercial airfield that's on ground level. And now this, we're sharing the base with 60 Russian soldiers. Why? Can we get more information on this? But John Kirby goes out in the middle of the press briefing every week because he has to be there because Karine Jean-Pierre can't do it by herself. She's so terrible. And he just said, I'm not answering the question. He just doesn't want to answer. They give no answers. They just sit there. They should bring a jukebox and just play music. All they do is dance around every question that's asked.
Well, speaking of Karine Jean-Pierre, we saw her earlier today. And we'll get into this. This is going to transition into our next topic here of the IDF bombardment of Rafah. But they asked Karine Jean-Pierre about the United States' plan to relocate like 100,000 Palestinians here to the United States. She had no comment for that, Joe. She had no comment.
If she would comment, what do you think she would even say? It's good.
Yes, we're going to relocate 100,000 Palestinians here to the United States.
Listen, Peter Ducey, diversity is our strength. I think we've proven that over the last 3.5 years. More Palestinians that don't want to come here that we can't vet.
Yeah, I mean, what we're witnessing is an absolute tragedy on many, many levels. But to bring over 100,000 without vetting them who they are, I mean, they could easily be Hamas. I mean, easily. And we still know that there are Hamas brigades probably in Rafah, and we believe that's why the IDF is conducting their invasion. Apparently today, this was breaking news as of, I think this morning, that Hamas accepted the ceasefire deal that was brokered by Egypt and Qatar, and Israel said we're not agreeing to those terms. Listen, here's the deal with this, Joe, and I know you're going to get into the IDF and the Israeli military too, but Netanyahu cannot agree to a ceasefire. Why would he do that? Because if he were to do that, then his time is up. Because he's ready to go. And as long as this war goes on, he stays in power. Joe, am I right or wrong on that?
You're right.
And now he's going to sacrifice the hostages, whatever Israeli hostages are still left. He's going to basically ethnically cleanse the southern part of Rafah. Just read a little bit ago before the show began that Hamas is actually going to blow holes into the fence that separates Gaza and Egypt, because it's literally right on the Egyptian border, to let the refugees flee into Egypt, into the Sinai Peninsula, put more pressure on Israel to withdraw from Rafah. So what you're going to witness here in the next couple of days, next week or so, as this unfolds, is going to be very, very horrific. And my heart goes out to all of those people who are going to suffer from this.
So this is from, you brought up the accepted ceasefire. This is from Chris D. Jackson on X. Breaking. Hamas has reportedly accepted a ceasefire. Looks like all the work that President Biden and Secretary Blinken have done behind the scenes has finally paid off. And I just wanted to post when I saw this, give this another day or two. Little did we know we would need another hour or two. Is it happening yet? According to Jack Posobiec, the IDF has begun the bombardment of Rafah on the southern border of the Gaza Strip with Egypt. They have warned those residing there to evacuate as a ground operation is imminent, and as many as 1 million Palestinians are expected to be there after fleeing from northern Gaza. Israeli leadership says Rafah is the last Hamas stronghold. Okay. It sounds like to me, Mark, and correct me on this term, like it could be a bloodbath.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what to say. This is just a situation we're going to have to sit here and just watch how it unfolds. Nothing we can do but report on it.
Yeah, there is no way. Netanyahu is going down with this ship. This is the hill he's dying on. There is going to be no ceasefire. There's not going to be a deal. What we're going to witness over the next week or two or however long, they are going to probably massacre many women and children. Many refugees are going to die as a result. They're telling them to relocate other parts of Rafah, but who knows? I mean, after what we've seen in the last couple of months, I mean, I don't know if that's going to do anything or not. And Netanyahu's going to go down with this. And what happens after that remains to be seen. But he has probably got to be one of the most hated people in the world right now.
All right, before we move to break, I have to also mention that Biden has halted Israeli aid, I think. Is that what he did? Scoop from Axios. Biden administration puts hold on ammo shipment to Israel. Apparently, there's a serious concern in the Israeli government over this. It's the first time since October 7th that the U.S. has stopped a weapons shipment intended for Israel and its military. And the U.S. fears Israel will invade Rafah. And surprise, surprise, that's what they're doing. And here's the problem. And this is the point I'm going to make before we move to break. This is why our country is a total freaking dumpster fire. Because let's look at a headline from, 4 years ago? The Trump administration broke the law in withholding Ukraine aid, Watchdog says, as Senate prepares for impeachment trial. Remember that 4 years ago? They impeached Trump over the exact same thing, except Hamas didn't somehow carry out one of the worst massacres of Jews since the Holocaust right before this. Just to clarify, I don't think we should be shipping everyone weapons on planet Earth. I'm glad Joe Biden is doing this. Sadly, however, the rules are the rules. I don't make them. I just make sure people abide by them. Therefore, Joe Biden must be impeached over halting Israeli weapons. Okay, when we come back, the mayor of Chicago reacts like a scared child when he's asked a question about gun violence. Also, speaking of gun violence and sadly children, a toddler was shot and killed in Washington, D.C. this weekend. Why isn't this a national news story on the gun violence topic? And speaking of shots and someone who was probably about the same size as a child, Dr. Fauci is back in the news cycle. Will he tell these protesters there's no reason to be walking around wearing a mask in 2024? Don't hold your breath, speaking of masks. Stay tuned, though. You're listening to Thinking Logically on 99.3 WBVP. Cash for your house. PGHbuyers.com. If you have an unwanted house but don't want the hassle of selling, visit PGHbuyers.com to see if PGHbuyers.com can help. No inspections and a fair cash offer. Visit PGHbuyers.com to sell that unwanted property for a fair price today.
Tune in to Beaver County Radio every Tuesday from 4 to 6 p.m. for the Sports Corner with Ralph Williams and Smokin' Jim Frazier. The Sports Corner talks about everything that is currently going on in the sports world. Ralph and Smokin' Jim will also have special guests every week, and they'll take your calls. The show will also be streamed live on the Beaver County Radio Facebook page and YouTube channel. So make plans every Tuesday at 4 p.m. to tune in to the Sports Corner, right here on Beaver County Radio.
It's Joe Corsi here from Thinking Logically to tell you about Beaver County's #1 realtor, Mark Galla with RE/MAX Select Realty. With over 10 years experience, Mark knows all the ins and outs of the real estate business, so whether you're looking to rent, buy, sell, or swap your house, you can rely on Mark to take the hassle out. Mark Galla of RE/MAX Select Realty, going above and beyond.
Beaver County Radio, your hometown radio station. You're listening live from the Fry Transportation Studios. Beaver County Radio and Fry Transportation, proud to call Beaver County home.
The views and opinions expressed on WBVP and WMBA are those of the participants and host. They are not necessarily the viewpoint of WBVP and WMBA, its staff, management, and advertisers. Thank you for listening to WBVP and WMBA.
Welcome back to Thinking Logically here on 99.3 WBVP. The number to call in again is 724-843-1888. Again, 724-843 or 774-1888. All right, Mark, it brings me no joy in this next story. I'm a guy who likes to make jokes and be funny. There's nothing funny about this. In Washington, D.C., I think this was on May 4th or 5th over the weekend, a toddler was shot and killed in a D.C. gunfight, and it was a 3-year-old girl who was struck by gunfire while inside a vehicle. She was not the intended target, really. According to the 7th District Commander of the Metropolitan Police, the child was caught in the crossfire of bullets being fired in the area, and this happened around 9:10 p.m., I believe, on Saturday. Mark, aren't firearms and handguns illegal in Washington, D.C.? How could this have possibly happened, and why isn't it on the news a child was killed by gun violence? Where is this at?
Yeah, terrible, Joe. Terrible. This is just sick. We have young kids, and seeing this happen is just horrible. But again, these are Guns are illegal in Washington, D.C., so I think we all know the answer.
Yeah. And this whole last segment's going to all be about, like, shootings, pretty much. Chicago mayor.
We just saw just the other day, Joe. I just saw this. Speaking of something like this, I think it was right here in Pittsburgh.
No, it was Braddock.
Well, yeah, that too. But I do believe police apprehended somebody with like 20 stolen guns. Like they went and robbed a gun store, and they had about 20 guns. A couple of them were ARs. And police.
That's a weapon of war.
Were able to arrest the person who robbed the store and had these guns, and were able to, get these guns back off the street, which is that's where they were headed. So that's how we know these guns, end up on the streets like this.
Now, if we were to give like a background check on that guy twice, wouldn't that solve all the problems? According to the left, they want more background checks. That would solve everything.
Yes, and red flag laws.
All right. This is from Chicago, another story. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson runs from reporters asking him about an alleged cop killer. You got to watch this video. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson was caught on camera bolting from local reporters who wanted to ask him about the recent arrest of an alleged cop killer. Joshua was at a National Day of Prayer service Thursday in the Windy City with his chauffeured car waiting in an alley. Local reporters darted after the mayor, hollering for him to wait and to comment about the arrest of Xavier Tate Jr., who allegedly killed Chicago police officer Louis Huska in a carjacking last month, according to the video. You got to see the video. Look, you got to look at this. We have a mayor of one of the biggest American cities running away from someone simply asking a question. And I mean literally running away. What is this? What kind of example does this set? Are you so afraid to answer? This is Chicago, again, a city plagued by gun violence. Can we bring this up in the national media?
I didn't think that we could get worse than Beetlejuice, Lori Lightfoot, but this guy,
he's close.
Has her beat by a mile. Joe, I think you know this. He canceled the contract of the city of Chicago they had with ShotSpotter, which detects gunshots in certain parts of the city. Pittsburgh uses it, and they're actually expanding it into the Carrick neighborhood because Brandon Johnson said that using Spot Shotter was racist. I don't have anything else.
How is that racist? Like that? I don't understand how it's just racist. Like they have a giant machine that just throws in adjectives. The left were just like, this is sexist and racist.
How do these people keep getting elected is what I want to know. We've seen people in Chicago up in arms over this migrant situation. And this guy's going to get elected again probably in another 3 years.
Yeah. Hey.
Like Dan Bongino says, Joe, things aren't bad enough yet.
That's scary to say that because, again, if things aren't bad enough yet, we make another mistake, things continue to get worse for 4 years. At least another two until the midterms. But that's neither here nor there. Let's move on. Let's go back to Dr. Fauci and COVID. This is from Hans Monkel on X. Leaving all else aside, how is it possible that on August 3rd, 2016, the Biosafety Committee of the University of North Carolina noted that Fauci's NIH had approved gain-of-function experiments on Symmetric Wuhan lab coronavirus clone, whereas Fauci claimed this never happened? What? We need to drag him in front of Congress or someone and sit him down and ask him questions again. How many more times are we going to do this? Are we ever going to get an answer on COVID if it came from if it came from Wuhan, if it came from Fort Detrick, where it came from, anything? How?
Well, speaking of COVID, we saw I think it came out today, just a little bit ago. Chinese scientists have created an Ebola-like virus that's pretty lethal. So we'll see if that leaks out too.
Well, if it does, again, I'm going to be like the boy that cried wolf because you didn't get me last time. You got me for like a month. I did leave some of my Amazon packages that were cardboard out in the rain for 4 days, like they said. And then after about a month, I started saying, wait a minute, this is just absolutely ridiculous. And the George Floyd riot started, and I was like, wait, this is getting more ridiculous. We got people out there supposedly peacefully protesting, lighting cities on fire, but because they have masks on, no one talks about COVID anymore. Literally at the drop of a hat. It's amazing. God forbid you go to a Trump rally. What was that?
I was going to say, don't forget about bird flu. We got bird flu coming up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, It's been known. Bill Gates and other people have said there's Pandemic X is the next one. They don't even have a name for it yet. So just be prepared here. All right. Speaking of stuff that's just absolutely sick, Epstein. How about this? Jeffrey Epstein's black book with 221 additional high-profile names is being sold to a secret bidder. Now, Jeffrey Epstein's infamous black book, I guess, is going up for auction. The book was discovered in the early 90s, mid-90s, maybe by a female musician in New York City, but how it got to that location in New York City remains a mystery. Mark, how much money... Can we start a GoFundMe? Ryan, can you start a GoFundMe right now for the Epstein Black Book?
I'll start it right now.
All right, start it right now. We're going to get it on there. I don't know how much it's going to cost. Remember, Ghislaine Maxwell went to prison for like the rest of her life for sex trafficking children to absolutely no one, apparently. We never found out who was in the book or who she was trafficking to. I'd like to know. But can we get enough money to buy the book, Mark? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, we'll see if it comes out who the person that has it, and see if they will be sent to prison like the person that disseminated Ashley Biden's diary that said that Joe took showers with her. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Same thing, right?
Hey, why not?
Yeah.
At least this guy's dead.
Yeah. Well, I'm moving on to our last topic here. Before we talk about, we talk about, this is actually in the hometown of U.S. Senator John Fetterman. Before we get into that, Joe, did you see John Fetterman went America First again?
Did he?
The other day. He agreed with Governor Ron DeSantis down in Florida.
Really?
Ron DeSantis signed a bill that banned lab-grown meat.
That's what That's what John Fetterman is. He's a lab-grown piece of meat.
Well, I think they sent him to a lab after he had a stroke, and he came out America First, and he tweeted about the ban on lab-grown meat and said, "I agree with Governor Ron DeSantis. I wouldn't feed my kids that slop." Hard to believe.
Fetterman 2.0, or maybe it's 3.0. I think it's Fetterman 3.0 right now. Stroke Fetterman was 2.0. They all look different. It's crazy. New Fetterman will drop every few months. They all look different. But this one is the most based. I like this Fetterman. I just fear that come campaign season here in Western Pennsylvania, it's going to be lit. And I just know he's not gonna have these views once Biden comes and he's stumping for Biden. So be prepared. Let's not get excited over John Fetterman yet. Let's congratulate him. We agree with him on this. That's good. But let's not get super excited yet about John Fetterman.
No, we don't have to get excited over John Fetterman, but it is interesting to see his conversion over the last couple months.
And what's up with his wife? Is him and his wife gone? Are they done?
Don't know.
All right, we're not going to get into gossip, but all right. But John Fetterman's hometown, Braddock Church. I mean, you would think when this story came out, I was like, oh my God, does John Fetterman have another shotgun in his hands again, chasing a black guy around? No, it's not what happened. A stunning video from the church service, I think it was yesterday, in Braddock, Pennsylvania. Pastor survived after handgun jammed and didn't fire. The guy points it right at the pastor's head. Looks like he pulls the trigger, but they're saying it jammed, and then he's tackled. Apparently, police later found a body at the man's house. This is crazy. 4 shooting stories in a row. 5 if you count Dr. Fauci as being part of shots. But
yeah, this is breaking news, Joe. As we begin to wrap up here, and I mean breaking. Report in Riyadh: Mohammed bin Salman survives an assassination attempt.
Is that the leader of Saudi Arabia, or is that the uncle?
That is the leader, Mohammed bin Salman.
Ooh, that's interesting news here. Didn't Saudi Arabia just do something for Biden with oil? We'll have to delve into that one on the couch tomorrow. Or not tomorrow, Thursday. All right, we got to wrap up here. I don't have much to say. This Trump trial, again, every time we come in here, it's like another strike for the Trump team. We're tallying up victories. We're going to battle the media, the mainstream media's narrative here. And Mark, anything else you want to say before we head out?
Thank you to Ryan, our producer. Thank you to everyone who's listening out there. We appreciate your support, and we hope you tune in on Thursday. God bless.
Ryan, anything?
Oh, absolutely, guys. I'm always happy to be helping out, and I'm happy to be here listening to everything you guys say. Great show, as always.
Okay, the show's Thinking Logically. It's on from 5 to 6 p.m. If you like it, give us a follow. If you don't, follow someone else, I guess. Give us a look, though. All right. Thank you very much. I'm your host, Joseph Anthony Corsai. We'll be back here on Thursday. Can't wait.
You're listening to 99.3 FM,